Yeah, on record, Tshidi. On record, Tshidi.
Illegal foreigners must go home. And foreigners that are here must come with a special skill. You cannot come here from Zimbabwe and be a teacher here while we have teachers sitting in El Rado Park, while we have teachers sitting in Soweto and Alexandra.
Hello, welcome to Politricking with Tshidi Madias. My name is Tshidi Madias. This is episode 6 of season 3 of a politics podcast brought to you by Eyewitness News. On any given day, if you found me in the streets of Joburg, I'll say to you, nah, ek me, ek baisa ni. But I can't, because then you'll think I have a political affiliation to a party that's green. But I don't, right? They say they don't baisa at all. Ever. And that's the conversation we're going to be having now, because this party, if you haven't guessed, I'm talking about the Patriotic Alliance. Everyone thinks of Gayton McKenzie and Kenny Kunene. Well, it goes beyond the two, and they play such an interesting role in what we've been seeing happening in Gauteng's metros. Last time I said to you, don't be surprised if that week ended without a mayor in Johannesburg. Well, they have one now, Kabelo Kwamanda. Ooh, anybody's guess. Nobody knows who this gentleman is, but he's the other Al Jamar councillor that they're backing. Will this also end in tears, a 3-month stint? They say no, that's not the case. I speak to Gayton McKenzie, president of the PA, about Kabelo Kwamanda, about his campaign, about being in the Central Karoo, and also just being in the middle of these fractious relationships that we are seeing in the political space. All right, so this week I'm joined by someone I think I've been needing to talk to for a while, just haven't gotten around to it. So we're finally here. I'm speaking to Gayton McKenzie. He is leader of the Patriotic Alliance. He just finished now as mayor in the Central Karoo, right? You're done. And now I believe you'll be campaigning, because the general elections are just around the corner. So you'll see a lot of that. You'll hear a lot of that, where political parties are starting to focus on the electorate. If I were you, I'd listen carefully to their messaging, because you must make the decisions, right? You must decide if what we're seeing in our metros is what we must see in our provinces and at national level. Gayton, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Tshidi. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
People forget the importance of leading by example and showing what you're capable of. I think about your tenure now in the Central Karoo and how important it was, I imagine, to showcase what you are capable of or what you can do if given power, surely.
No, definitely. I mean, I remember a year and a half ago, I called 5 people that's very true and close to me. I said, listen, why would you give me one reason? I know all of you would vote for me, but give me one reason why you would not vote for me. What do I lack? And they all gave me the same reason. They said, you lack public office experience. You say what you're going to do, but people now want to see what you can do. I said, fine. Find me the place where the PA is part of a coalition that's under administration, that's bankrupt, that's got high unemployment, and that's hopeless. And they found me Central Karoo district. And I said, all right, I'll be the mayor in Central Karoo, and I'm going to be there for only 1 year. And if I can't even effect a lot of changes in 1 year, I must never govern anyway. And I came in a year ago exactly.
What did you do differently? Because Julius Malema has been pretty much begging to be given a shot at governance, to show that his party is also capable. He's been saying, give us one metro, give us something, give us something to show what we would do if we're put in charge. And years on, they've struggled. The closest they've gotten are these arrangements that we're seeing now in Gauteng's metros, really. But you've managed to actually put yourself at the helm of a municipality in the district that you're referring to. What is so different that you did, that you managed to maneuver the politics of other parties as well to get there?
Well, basically, I also think that we have hit the election lotto. I mean, we are the breakout party come in the past election. And what we are kingmakers, and we use our power. We use our power. And even if you think if I was in a position of Julius Malema, I would also not have been able to do what I'm doing now, because they did very well, but the numbers is not really kingmaker status, while ours is kingmaker status. And then when you're the kingmaker, you have the loudest voice in the room. People don't want to accept that, but that's just the truth.
The EFF was exactly that in 2016. You're right. You got a point.
Yes. Well, that's a buzz they should have really, really used more effectively. And I don't know the strategy. Maybe they had a different strategy. But what I'm saying is that where the PA is the kingmaker, you're going to feel we're kingmakers, whether the people like it or not. And when I came to the Central Karoo, I said I'm going to be there for 1 year. And I'm very proud. And there's two things. One that stands out, which is personal for me. And one is the fact that when I came there, people were using bucket toilets. Now, people just talk so, like in myself, we talk so casually about bucket toilets, but I managed to see a site, and I'll make you an example of something that I, as a black man, wasn't even aware of, that women suffers from UTI.
Yes, we do.
And I had to understand what that is, and I saw it. So many women in Central Karoo suffers from that because of the bucket toilets. Some women get infected with the flies and the insects around their private parts. Some 80-year-old man and his wife, that's 72, I think, must use the felt to relieve themselves. And Central Karoo is cold. And they would go to the bathroom, and those are the things that inspired me. And today, I look back and I have eradicated each and every bucket toilet in the Central Karoo. I got there, people were drinking water in Lugamka out of asbestos tanks, and people got sick. The water is brownish, and they would share that with animals, because owls and birds and
You
leaves.
document a lot of what you've done.
Yes.
I think even the swimming pools.
Yes.
Whatever you've done, you've always advertised.
Yes.
I want to come back to where you are in a partnership, because we must speak about what's happening with Gauteng's metros. But before then, I want to speak about your recent trip to Orania and how people did not necessarily welcome the fact that you decided to go there, the observations that you made. Just very quickly, before I even ask you my own questions about that trip, just what is your assessment? What's your takeaway from that trip?
I think firstly, I must also be honest with people to say I was also damn curious. That's one of the reasons I was curious. But also my assessment is that Orania is racist for them not to allow black people. And they act like, no, it's not that we don't deny you entrance in Orania because you're black. We deny you entrance because you don't subscribe to Afrikaans culture. For me, it's one and the same thing. I think that's regrettable. But my experience is two things I take from Orania. Number one is that they're doing it for themselves. And that's the culture that we as black people need to learn fast and hard. They've got white domestic workers, they build that place. You look at Orania and jealous down. What is wrong with Orania for me is the racism thing. What is right is the fact that those people are building a city right in front of our eyes. Those people, I mean, you look at Orania, they have shares in their bank. They've got their own bank that they started, and this is a population of 3,000. Registered bank with the Reserve Bank. Every person banking in Orania has shares in the bank. You look at Orania, it's totally, completely litter-free. You look at Orania, there's nobody that's without a job. You look at Orania, they've got plans. They've built 2 private schools. They've built 1 technical college. And I mean, they've got a bigger demand for housing. So the supply is under the demand. So they got more demand than supply. And you have companies like SEEF. I was shocked to see them being there because the housing market just went up. Now, we as black people love this victim mentality. You want to be offended constantly. Now they get offended because Gayton McKenzie decided to go to Orania to go and see for themselves and talk about the good and the bad. That's
What's the crux of the fence from what you can see? What is the crux of the issue?
Why did you go to Orania? My issue is that as a political leader, I don't have the luxury to judge without knowing both sides.
I don't know. I think the fact that Orania exists is an indictment on this current government.
Can I just say something on that existence?
Sure.
That people don't know. Orania was bought for 1 million rands. 800 hectares, which is around 800 rugby fields. It was bought. Our government sold Orania, number one. Number two, Orania went to court to become a municipality, which basically went to court to be what that enclave that we think they are.
Yeah.
Our government settled with them out of court.
Hence, I say the mere existence of anything like Orania to me is an indictment on the government of the day.
Yes.
But there is this thing, though, and I understand you saying, oh, you went out of curiosity. But there is this thing around you, your character, where it seems that you uphold the idea of separatism, if I may, and I speak about that because there's Orania, and you're saying you spoke about the good and the bad of Orania, but there's also the issue around African migrants and the way you're seen to navigate the issue of immigration. Then there's the issue of who does the PA necessarily speak to as the electorate. You speak to a colored community, so they say, and that speaks to people almost in particular pockets. What is your reaction to that, where it feels like there is some nostalgia to separatism as far as your name is mentioned in politics? I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes 100% sense, and it's a very good question, I must tell you, because nobody really asked me in the way that you've asked me, but I'll give you all three answers. The separatism, the nostalgia, and the issue of
Sure.
the colours and the foreigners. Firstly, in the Western Cape, for the first time, the DA has competition. For the first time, they have competition. They no longer control Neisner. They no longer control Laingsburg. They no longer control Tiwaterskloof. They no longer controls Beaufort West and all those other places in the Western Cape. But the DA and all these parties want a federal Cape Town. They want independent Cape Town.
There is a push for an independent Cape Town.
I'm the one
Yeah.
that was stand between that happening and that not happening as the Patriotic Alliance party. We said that's absolute racism covered in federalism. We will never allow that. That's number one when it comes to nostalgia. Number two, let us not beat around the bush. Colored people has really been neglected in this country. First, they were not white enough. Now they're not black enough. And I'll show you examples of that. They take colored children out of schools in El Rado Park, Mitchell's Plain, and for those kids to make space for black kids. And when those kids leave school, colored people are number one when it comes to alcohol fetal syndrome, number one when it comes to people not getting bursaries. So there is a problem that nobody wants to talk about. You ask yourself, why is it today colored people are not known as Africans? But in 1986, when colored people were invited to join the white people in parliament, the tricameral parliament, colored people said, for as long as our black brothers are not free and not part of this, we ain't want to join your thing. And colored people then went to the street. The next day, apartheid closed 500 colored schools. But now, during democracy, suddenly, the ANC comes and say colored people are not African. Now, the racism that nobody speaks about is about that. I am unapologetic when it comes to the fact that the time when colored people has no say in this country is over. The time where colored people are being treated like they are nothing. CVs are being thrown in the bin. Boards don't consist of colored people. That's over. And lastly, with the foreigners and the racism that we stand only for colored people, the deputy president of this party, Kenny Kunene, is black. The leader of all the youth in South Africa, Bongi Nkosi Kanyisile, is black. Our deputy president of the Women's League is black. Now, when people come with, let's look at the leadership of PA compared to the leadership of the DA and the leadership of the ANC. All white leadership in the ANC, in the DA. All white leadership in the DA. All white leadership in Freedom Front Plus. All white leadership in IFP. Come to the PA. You've got to Eugene Botha has been. He's a white guy. Ivan Botha is the secretary of the Youth League. These are white people in our top structure. And as far as the foreigners are concerned, Tshidi, listen to me and
Gayton.
listen to me clear.
Please note that I get attacked very often on social media because I am a Africa for all kind of character.
Africa
Just
for
so you
all.
know.
No, I know that. I've seen your stance. Let me tell you something today. The day after 2024, no government in this country will be formed without our votes. That one I can tell you as a fact. Just in Joburg, nobody can move without us. We will demand as our the second thing that we will demand, we will demand that all illegal foreigners must be mass deported. We will if you want to be, now power is a strange thing. People might now say McKenzie is a xenophobe, but when he has to choose, do I give in to the demands of McKenzie and the PA and not become president? Or do I give in to the demands and still become? No, I know the layer of power. They will listen to us. Foreigners must go home. illegal foreigners must go home. And foreigners that are here must come with a special skill. You cannot come here from Zimbabwe and be a teacher here while we have teachers sitting in El Rado Park, while we have teachers sitting in Soweto and Alexandra. They have taken over the service industry. I live in the Western Cape. I go to Cape Town. You go to Cape Town. There's not one restaurant where you can find African and colored or Indian people serving you. They've taken over the whole industry. They must go home. The sooner they go home, the better. There's no one Africa for all here. There's borders here. They must go home.
I see the technical producers in agreement. He's laughing. KG, watch yourself. Anyway, let's leave my views out of this conversation.
You can debate it.
Not today. I'll debate it. I'm always good for a debate.
Sure.
Make no mistake, but not today. Let's speak quickly about coalitions. What is your sense of coalition governments in Gauteng specifically? When you look at what's happening here, residents call into our radio station saying it's a mess, it's chaotic, they're worried. What is your sense?
You know what? I think it's new. And everything new, you got to find yourself. You know, we are new in coalitions. We can't just start out and it is perfect. South Africa has not been used to coalitions. I mean, you have in Sweden, where they took, I think, months or years to form a coalition government. If I'm not in Israel, you have the two parties on the far right and far left parties working together currently simply because they found each other. I think we will find each other. The problem that you have is in every workplace, in every situation, every relationship, family, there's always this Nyaupe edict that messes things up. The DA is the Nyaupe edict of coalitions. Now, the DA comes with the white supremacy tendencies, wanting to tell us who our friends should be, who we should be working with, and that's why the DA has that problem. But what I'm saying to you is that the DA, you look at Central Karoo, this coalition has never had an argument. They're working together nicely. You look at Tiwatas Kloof, coalition works very nicely. Wherever the DA is, because they come with that attitude of, you got to listen. You can get that right with other people. You can't tell me.
Yeah, but in Ekurhuleni, as we speak, there's something brewing in Ekurhuleni. I started writing about issues around waste trucks that are supposedly missing but not. There's issues around service providers. There's issues around tenders that's already starting to brew. In fact, what feels like a parasitic network is starting to land in Ekurhuleni. That can't necessarily be good for the residents if that's what's taking place.
Who exposed this matter of the trucks? I saw Malema send out a tweet.
He put out a tweet saying they're stolen, and I put out a story saying there's no such.
But what I'm saying is that EFF is basically in charge of Ekurhuleni, mostly. But Malema exposed it. Who was in charge prior to Malema? The DA. Where's the 10 billion?
But I'm saying that the trucks are not missing. You're saying he's exposed to missing trucks. I say there are no missing trucks. That's misinformation.
No, but what I'm saying is that
what I'm trying to get to, what I'm trying to drive you towards is, are you not concerned when that starts happening? Because already I can see tensions brewing between the ANC and the EFF already in Ekurhuleni. Does that not concern you? Because you say the only areas where there are issues where the DA is involved in coalitions. The DA is not part of the coalition government in Ekurhuleni. I sense something brewing in Ekurhuleni. What do you put that down to?
No, there's always something brewing. Even in Central Karoo, there's always something brewing in coalitions. Even where I was, there's forever things brewing. The issue is, if you look at the end in mind, how does this thing end up? Does it end up in a divorce? That it end up in us finding each other? I do believe that the ANC and EFF, yeah, it's true, there's a lot of tension, I can tell you. I can confirm that. But the ANC and the EFF has no choice but to find each other. Because what you are seeing here, you have parties that on the other side of the political spectrum, they are finding each other. They have all rainbow coalition. They have this doomsday pact, this moonshot pact. They are trying to find each other. So I think we must just get over our egos, because we all have a lot of egos, including myself. We need to get to a point where we say that, listen, what if you want to see what's happening in the Western Cape, happening here in Gauteng, you better get your act together. Because in the Western Cape, I can tell you, the only people getting services are whites and rich blacks like us. Go to Khayelitsha, go to Guguletu, go to Menenberg, go to Mitchell's Plain. Now here you're going to have the same thing, where it's only Sandhurst, Waterfall, all the big areas,
Affluent areas,
getting services, because that's the modus operandi of the DA. So we have to find each other, and true, there's tension. There's tension in coalitions because everyone wants a pound of meat. That's the effect of coalitions.
Everyone's in pound of meat. Are those tensions? No, not the tensions. The need to work together. Is that how you got to Al Jamaa being in charge of one of the largest economies on this continent, one of the most advanced economies on this continent, where a 1 percentile party isn't given that economy, and then it loses it because you said it yourself. The former mayor was one embarrassing incident after another. Then you give it to the other one, same from the same unknown party, really.
I want to say something that I think nobody wants to say because I've been observing it.
Say it.
Going through it. I think firstly, the reason why we ended up with Al Jamaa or AIC in Tshwane, in Ekurhuleni, and Cope, we're going to end up with Cope. We ended up with Cope in thing. Is because the ANC and EFF cannot find each other. And they don't want to come out with their truths. I'm telling you, the ANC and EFF, because the ANC were the ones that broke the agreement. The original agreement, which I was part of, was ANC takes Joburg,
EFF takes Ekurhuleni. I've been tweeting for a very long time that the Ekurhuleni was meant to turn red.
Yes.
I was aware.
That was an agreement. I was in the room when that agreement was agreed on. I was part of that agreement. Julius Malema and EFF then kept the end of the bargain. They voted for Dada Morero in Joburg. When it came time for the ANC to vote for, I think it was Dunga in Ekurhuleni.
Dunga, yes, mayor, yes.
All of a sudden now they started manufacturing reasons as to why they cannot. So the problem we are sitting with now must be put directly at the door of the ANC. Then the thing that people don't want to say, well, obviously I'm the first one to say we've had it with Tapelo. The PA was the first one to come out and say, no, this guy, we've given him many chances. But what I've seen with the new mayor is that, I see
His
that.
First week in office.
No, people don't want to say it, but and it's a problem. People look at his looks. I see a lot of people comment on, look at this guy, this is your mayor, without no caption.
Say he looks like a thug, like a para.
No, but that is a
All of
problem.
those things, yeah.
If you come from jail, like I come from jail, you go and look at guys in jail. Those guys, some of them, you look at this guy with a baby face. You swear this guy is a pastor. When you look at him, then you hear he's killed 15 people. No, we know looks are extremely deceiving. And I think it is wrong. And black people need to lose that as quickly as possible to look at people's looks and say, he looks like, because I know how crooks look like, and he doesn't look like a crook. I was a crook. Do I look like a crook?
Yes,
Nobody speaks.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So it's unfair that he's judged on appearance. I've actually noted that they are doing that.
Yes, it's wrong.
But I also judge him on that speech that he gave in council. I make my judgments based on that. He couldn't even look at the councillors. He was staring down at what has obviously been prepared by all of you as the coalition of local government of local unity. Yes. So he was reading that and he wasn't even engaging his audience. That's what I judge the mayor on.
No,
not his appearance.
You're wrong,
but even that. But he could not look at his audience. How do you do public speaking and you can't look at your audience? That's the person that you are backing, and that's the person you're sending to a Joburg resident saying, this is who and what we think is the best. That's what you're doing at the moment.
You're a very good speaker. And the problem with very good speakers is that they expect everybody to be good speakers in positions. No, but you can't judge. I'm not here to defend him, but what I'm saying is that there are many people. Have you ever heard Ellen Windy giving a firing speech that you guys commenting about? Have you ever heard this new mayor of Tshwane? But the mayor of Tshwane. Have you ever heard him giving a speech where we go back and say, wow?
It isn't Julius Malema. Some people are
not
getting
everybody is like a Gayton McKenzie that can take the mic and get people to speak. I mean, when I went to the school, there was some lady one day that was just going crazy when I went to a school. I'm just pulling your leg.
But Gayton, one would have said, because you said you put your hand up for the possibility of being a mayor, then at some point you put up Kenny as well. The truth be told, again, we spoke at the beginning of this conversation about the importance of leading by example and showing that you're capable of leadership, right? And that would demand that you actually do want to occupy that seat. I understand the threat to both the ANC and the EFF. For anyone who's dynamic to come into that position, that's a threat to a constituency. That takes away votes. But you've settled. You said to me, no decisions can be made without you.
Yes.
Because you're a kingmaker, your voice is that loud and your demands are that important. Why is the PA not in charge of Joburg?
Let me tell you, with all humility I can master, Joburg needs a guy like me. Joburg, I can help really do a lot, but because coalitions is a give and take. And this time, intelligently, they got us to say, but guys, you demanded this at the beginning of our talks. You can't just change the goalpost. And they were right. Hence, we withdrew, myself and Kenny. Because they're right. You can't come like the DA wanting everything. So they said, but guys, you got what you wanted. Why are you coming? So we had to stand back. And that's why we are not the mayor, but things change in politics. Tomorrow, after 2024...
Yeah, might not make it to 3 months.
I think it's going to make it.
But you're also gambling with the city. And the gamble for me is that residents are going, we don't want this at provincial level. We don't want this at national level. In fact, some people in the ANC are hoping that that's what will help them get over the line. I say that should not be a margin, should not be used really as anything to judge what voters will do come 2024. But you are setting an agenda in place and you are leaving voters jittery about what they're seeing in the metros. Are you not?
No, I would not say that. I would say to you firstly is that the voters put us where we are now. The voters, the train that left the station is the one that said we trust one party. They now trust a plethora of different parties. What we need to do, which is regrettable for the city, for the citizens, and you are right to the extent that because we must become adults in the room. But when people start putting, we want this personality, we want peace and stability, hence we didn't continue to insist I become the mayor. That is trying to stabilize and let government continue its work. Otherwise, we could have said, we know if you look at the numbers and you understand numbers, you can't form a government without a PA. But we said, okay, for the sake of stability, let us curtail our ambition and we put somebody else. We ended up with Kabelo. We are watching him like a walk. We're giving him an opportunity, but as a Hanbaiza, if he's going to make a mistake, he'll be out.
The DA allegations against him of being a scammer?
You know what? I saw Mpopalazzi coming with allegations of him being a scammer. I asked him one question. I did ask him. I said, have you been arrested or a case been made against you? He said, no, president of the PA. He said, no. Now, you see, when there's always allegations against people. Now, Mpopalazzi, he suffers from what we call in Afrikaans kettingkoers.
What bedoel kettingkoers?
Kettingkoers means you are suffering from chain fever. Kettingkoers is chain fever. He wants that chain even now starting to blame. The issue that you're having here, and I'm going to tell you where it's coming from. It's not even from Mpopalazzi.
It's from the ANC.
It's from the ANC, a group that don't want him in the ANC. And the ANC must be very careful with that. They'll find themselves out of power. They must be very careful. They must not think that our relationship with the DA has broken in such an extent that we can't talk again. But if the ANC is going to sabotage this new mayor, they will regret this decision because we cannot be in a house where people fight always. We want unity.
And that's the other thing. Then you can't be trusted. On every other second, you dangle a threat to walk away.
No.
I then question the parties for wanting to work with you because while all of this is happening, Action says in the background, still seemingly batting for PA and for the DA to find one another. And here you are saying if the ANC is not careful, we will walk away.
We will. We will walk away nicely. Monati fela. Let me explain to you why. Because we are no victims. We are not married to these people. Once we don't, sometimes you don't get your way. Like we didn't get our way for me to become mayor. We didn't walk away. But once we sense disrespect, you see, there's some people that is a high threshold for being disrespected. Let me show you, like Action SA, they've got a very high threshold for being disrespected. Action SA voted for the DA mayor in Tshwane. All they asked for the DA, vote for our mayor in Joburg. The DA refused. The DA insults them instead. Not just saying no, very politely. They insult them. You're not going to do that with a PA. You are never going to do that with the PA because we don't disrespect people and we don't tolerate disrespect. We will leave this coalition once we sense disrespect. We've got a saying in our party lastly that says the time is over of gee maar net wat jy het, Melanie. You know what that means?
No, actually. Say it slowly.
Gee maar net wat jy het, Melanie.
Melanie. Okay, give me what you had.
Yes,
Melanie.
because our people
Melanie's
come from this culture sometimes of black people with this thing where a white man, you ask him in a job interview, how much would you want to get? He'll give you an amount. When it comes to money, you become so uncomfortable. You start talking about, how's your budget? How much did you pay a white person will tell you, no, I want 70,000 a month, and if you can't give that, I'm out of here. He will go to Durban, Kimberley, come back before giving you and still not rich. So we are
from
that
a
stage.
culture of suffrage, from a history of poverty and suffrage. There's this thing about the PA. I must first say this. I found a video by, I'm not asking for you to speak for him, but I found a video by Kenny Kudane Tusolim Simanga. Incredibly vulgar. I did laugh. I mean, who the hell says you can't put us in the corner? We operate in the rundown. Like, what the hell? But I then asked myself, but geez, is the PA always going to be seen as a party that is this vulgar? Your politics are this intense and this rude. Is that who you always want to be seen as? We are still a very conservative country. So you push our boundaries with some of the things you say. Like I said, Kenny's video took me aback. Is that who we must understand you to always be as we go to the polls?
No, I think what is rude for me is to call people rent seekers. You call us rent seekers. You call us Judases. I think that's extremely rude to say we are rent seekers. Like we are homeless and we are looking to rent somewhere. And that's what Solim Simang did. Mm-hmm. What Kenny did was to answer that disrespect. Because you see, for us, it's fire with fire. If you come with respect, you've asked me very hard but respectfully, questions. But if you were rude to me, I would have been rude to you. So we give what we get. If Soli wanted a nice
exchange,
he would have said, guys, we understand. But don't come and insult us on the behest of your white boss. Don't do that. Solim Simang, he needed to know his place. And let me tell you, he was put in his place. I also laughed with that sort of it's damn funny.
It was a weird video.
Do you understand?
But now, shaking off the fact that you are ex-cons, you don't hide it, you don't fight it, you own your history, you own who you are. How are you finding people relating to that? I mean, at the moment, you've been in a legitimate government. You're putting yourself up as a legitimate alternative to what's happening in the political space. How are people responding to who you are? Do you find that your history still follows you in terms of being taken seriously in certain spaces?
Right. I'm going to answer you very seriously because it's a big thing. It's the biggest thing in my life at the moment. We actually had a discussion about it yesterday. South Africans hate crime, but they also hate people that got tired of crime. And they want to accept that. Now, ask yourself, I got prisoners to build houses for GBV victims, to fix houses of all the GBV, for most of the GBV victims in the different communities.
Yeah.
Now you ask yourself one question. I committed crimes at the age of 18. I was still a child, man. So I grew up in jail. I literally grew up in jail. My first freedom was at the age of 30. I came out of jail. I went to 1,023 schools across the country to warn children about the dangers of drugs and crime.
Including my colleagues and the league.
Yes. I then went further.
And boys and against boys.
Yes.
There are lots of people in the studio. Yes, continue.
Yeah. I then went further. I then started donating millions to charity and I help people. Now, the reason why I'm mentioning this is if the Sunday Times editor last week wrote a whole op-ed about me not being fit because of my past, Musi Mamani went the other day with a tweet.
Yeah, so your clap back about his Jesus, yeah.
Now, my question is, I only have one question for South Africa. Only one. Maybe you can answer it, you're smart. How, if I, that has spoken to so many school children about the dangers of crime, if I that has exposed corruption in jail, if I that is giving millions to charity, if I that gives more jobs to ex-prisoners than anybody on the African continent, if I am not acceptable to some people, which of the 160,000 currently in jail, which of the million that come from jail will ever be acceptable. This is not about me. I will never look for a job in my life ever again, as a fact. But what about the guy that wants to change his life? This is long past being about Gayton McKenzie.
Yeah.
People need to understand. I've served my time. I've paid for my crimes. I've repented. And I have a right to live my life. I don't ask you to, I pay tax. So I'm saying that people really need to have this conversation. It's a very important conversation. That you gotta give, otherwise go to jail and shoot all those prisoners in jail, call all the ex-prisoners in a stadium and blow up the stadium. Because what chance do those guys have to change their lives and to think? I go to Germany, I'm getting hero worshipped in the prisons there and the opposition. The UK called me to speak to all the prosecutors. I go to Russia, to people, and I speak at big events, and they're like, this is a inspirational, inspiring story. I come here, they call me an ex-convict mayor.
I don't have answers, but I do think there's a big conversation the country must have around
Very big.
rehabilitation that I can sense. I was going to say to you, from being an ex-con, going into politics is not necessarily the thing that one ought to do, because politicians are dodgy by their very nature. But thank you so much. That's Gayton McKenzie, leader of PA, who I believe will be campaigning over the next coming months, because they, as he said, will be part of the conversations when governments are put together, when the elections come to a close next year. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Tshidi Madias. This podcast was produced by Duduzile Masuku. For Eyewitness News, my name is Tshidi Madias.